From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Dave Deforest reporting. A coalition of 6 nations, the United States, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Britain, call for an immediate ceasefire in Aleppo. They are condemning Russia for interfering with attempts to bring humanitarian aid to civilians trapped in the Syrian city. They are also calling on the Syrian government to agree to a United Nations plan to send humanitarian aid into the city. Meanwhile, Syrian forces advanced further into Aleppo, forcing more people into a shrinking rebel enclave. NATO's chief has urged allies to maintain sanctions against Russia. He spoke as foreign ministers wrapped up a 2-day meeting in Brussels. Lisa Bryant reports.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said ceasefire violations have increased massively in eastern Ukraine, with hundreds of explosions daily from military equipment banned under the Minsk ceasefire accord.
The international community must keep pressuring Russia to respect its obligations.
He said a 4-way meeting last week between Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany did not make headway in shoring up the Minsk agreement. But he said diplomacy is the only solution. Lisa Bryant, Paris.
A Pakistani plane crashed while traveling from the northern town of Chitral to Islamabad Wednesday. All 48 people aboard the plane were killed. The Pakistan International Airlines plane went down and burst into flames in an isolated mountainous region near the town of Havelian. 42 passengers, 5 crew members, and a ground engineer were aboard. The airline's chairman told reporters the pilot had informed the control tower that one of the plane's engines had stopped functioning. This is VOA News. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has chosen retired Marine General John Kelly to lead the Department of Homeland Security. That agency is tasked with combating terrorism. Trump also says former critic Mitt Romney is still being considered for Secretary of State. Time magazine named President-elect Trump as its annual Person of the Year Wednesday. Brian Walsh is Time's foreign editor.
What we're saying here essentially is this is someone who was influential, and we note very much in the story, we note on the cover actually, where we call him the President of the Divided States of America, that his success electorally did not necessarily mean that he wasn't doing bad things, I think, to the country in that campaign.
Other reported appointments: Trump has selected Iowa Governor Terry Branstad as the next U.S. ambassador to China. The Associated Press says a source close to Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt says he will be nominated to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. The military coalition fighting to retake the Iraqi city of Mosul made an unusual strike Wednesday on militants holed up in a hospital building. The coalition says the building had been taken over by militants who were firing guns and rockets at Iraqi forces. It's unclear how many casualties. Authorities in Indonesia Wednesday declared a 2-week state of emergency after an earthquake hit Aceh province. That quake on the northern tip of Sumatra Island killed at least 97 people. More than 500 have been injured. Arab Gulf countries wrapped up a 2-day summit in Bahrain's capital Wednesday. Edward Iranian has the report.
King Hamad of Bahrain sounded a cheerful note in his final remarks to the 37th annual summit in Manama of the Gulf Cooperation Council. The king thanked his fellow Gulf leaders for attending, along with British Prime Minister Theresa May for her presence. Prime Minister May vowed to strengthen defense cooperation with the Gulf states, noting that Britain would help them defend against what she called Iran's aggressive regional actions. Edward Uranian, Cairo.
The British Parliament voted Wednesday to support Prime Minister Theresa May's March 31st deadline to begin the nation's formal exit from the European Union. The government agreed to reveal some details about its negotiations on Brexit. Ms. May had been reluctant to reveal much, believing that doing so would weaken Britain's hand in the talks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected a meeting in France with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. The proposed December meeting in Paris was aimed at restarting stalled Middle East peace efforts. Mr. Netanyahu expressed willingness to meet privately with Abbas, but not at international conferences such as the French-sponsored summit. In Washington, I'm Dave Deforest.
That's the latest world news from VOA.